We're going to call the July 26th Apopka City Council Budget Workshop to order. Commissioner Bankson, would you give us the prayer and the pledge, please?
Heavenly Father, we come together again tonight. We ask for your wisdom and grace as we approach the business of this city. Father, give us insight into the things that affect all of the people and help us to make the best decisions. Lord, we give you honor and praise, and we thank you for this good day in Jesus' name.
Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Public Works, Dio.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioner.
Good evening.
My name is Deodat Budut, Public Service Director. This evening, myself and our division manager will provide an overview of their respective division budget for the next fiscal year 22-23, according to the division respective fund allocations. As you know, public service departments strive to maintain the city of Apopka infrastructure, public facilities, and fleet, thereby promoting the health, safety, and welfare of the resident by providing for their water, sewer, reclaimed water, sanitation, street, stormwater facilities, and fleet management. In addition, this department aids in the planning, design, permitting, construction, and retrofit of many projects. These types of work, as explained, are being provided by a team of very hard-working frontline staff, such as maintenance personnel, operator, foremen, secretaries, and a variety of professional staff, effectively managed by a team of very resourceful managers and supervisors, some of whom you will hear from very shortly. The Public Service Department is comprised of 8 divisions and have a total number of 137 staff, and is funded from various funding sources, such as General Fund, which fund fleet and facilities, Enterprise Fund, which is the 401 fund, which fund the utility administrative division, water plant, wastewater plant, water maintenance, wastewater well maintenance, and the design engineer team, as well as the utility plant maintenance. The stormwater fund, the stormwater section, as well as the street fund, which fund the street section, as well as the sanitation fund. And this can be seen from the landing page that we have here. I will be starting tonight's presentation, and I will be concentrating on the utility operation fund, which is the 401 fund. As you can see from the highlight, the budget highlight in front of you, that in the fiscal year 2022, the total funding for the utility under the enterprise fund was $26,328,960. In the 2023 proposal, we have $28,411,104,000, which is an increase of 8% in the overall. What you will see from us is that we are going to drive down deeper into the individual division and to show you how that aggregate came about, because we're going to speak with a specific division within that funding, the 401 fund. So I'm going to start with the utility administration. And as you're going to see there, you have the personal cost. There's an increase, there's a decrease of minus 2%. And that is just, that decrease is basically primarily due to FICA, retirement adjustment, and worker compensation. You know, previously maybe those items was budgeted too much, so in this budget period, I think there's some reallocation of the funding and reduction of the funding. That's why you see there's a minus 2%, because we are not asking for any new personnel. So far, we have within that division 8 personnel, but we have 2 vacant positions. With respect to the operation expense, you will see there is an increase of 19%. And that is attributed to a cost of $16,000 increase. And that increase is due to, it was attributed to an asset management software annual fee of $15,000, which we have to pay. And that is reflected in the 46,000 line. as well as we have a slight increase in training fee and other incidental fees that reflect that $16,000 increase. But the majority of that increase came from the asset management software, which is the annual fee. With respect to capital outlay, there is a zero, increase there because we are not asking for anything in that items. So with that, I will then turn over the next week to Glenn Brooks, who will then speak with respect to the 401k, the water plant. So is Glenn here?
Yes. Right on time, right on time. Well, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Glenn Brooks, Water Resource Operations Manager. First budget we'll be going over is going to be 3111 water plant operation. Just want to give you a brief summary. So we're presenting to you this evening the Water Plant Operations Division tentative budget for year 2022-2023. This division is being funded. You got me? This division is being funded by 401-3111, 533 Water and Wastewater Operations Fund. The Utility Water Plant Division produces potable water that meets all standard and federal requirements. This division also ensures suitable pressure has been maintained to meet day-to-day water needs as well as the requirements demanded for emergencies. The water plant operations are responsible for the distribution of all drinking water to our residential and commercial customers. And if you look, the overall budget is decreased by 10% from 2022 budget with no new positions added. Personnel cost, there's an increase by 2% or $9,270, due primarily to adjustment to workers' compensation, life insurance adjustment, as well as an increase. We do have a slight increase in the overtime hours requested. The division is comprised of a total of 7 personnel, and again, there's no current vacancies. We're fully staffed. Operating expenses, there's an 11% net increase in operating expenses over the current year, which amounts to a $106,810 increase. That was distributed mainly to line 3400. If you'll look in contractual service, where there's an increase of $12,134. Our triannual sampling that is required every 3 years is due this year, and that is what reflects the increase you're seeing here. Repair and maintenance in line 4600, there's an increase of $16,500 due to our ground storage tanks that will need to be inspected this fiscal year. Line 5200, operating supplies, this is where we have our biggest hit with an increase of $66,451. This is due to the price increase of our sodium hypochlorite from 87 cents per gallon to a whopping $1.08 per gallon. We have 5 water plants. They have to be visited every day, as some of you know, maybe some you don't. So in line 5250, fuel and gasoline, as everyone knows, has increased. So we have an increase there of $16,300 for the upcoming year for fuel costs. As far as capital outlay costs, we showed a decrease of 34%. In the 6300 line you're looking at, the infrastructure line, the design replacement of Plymouth Regional Well 1, 2, and Well 3 is being funded here. And Vladimir Simonowski will speak a little later on this evening on the design later. And one of the items that we are asking for, if you look in 6400 line, is equipment machinery. It's the replacement of an F-150 that is over 14 years old at a cost of $35,000. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Just,
Go ahead, please.
you said we're fully staffed now. When do you anticipate, or can you at this point, that will need to change? Is that something like by the next budget season we're going to need to look to increase? Are we set for a while?
Commissioner, I believe we are set for a while. There is some changes coming down the pike with our water standards. We are looking at doing some upgrades, the water plants, which is, we'll change the, what we permanently do now. So we're in the process of design again, but I would say that would be at least 4 to 5 years off before we're looking at needing to increase in.
Commissioner Smith?
Does this budget include a plan that we are implementing for the water meter inspections?
Water meter inspections, that's going to come under a different budget a little later in this evening. So.
Okay.
Mr. Nesta?
You said we had one F-150 that's 14 years old. What's like kind of the average age of the fleet right now, and the other vehicles that we have?
Well, the ones that we're looking at, that's one of the oldest ones we have, pretty
Okay.
much, Commissioner Nesta. Most of all are about 6, I'd say average 6 years old. So
Okay.
the thing is, a lot of these trucks are used every day out in the public. When you talk about the water plant, all 5 of those plants have to be visited every day. So it's one of the trucks there, it's one of our older fleet that is due for replacement. We're spending more time at fleet with it than on the roads. So.
How often what's our goal to kind of upgrade or update those?
Well, you know, one of the things I do is I rely on fleet, even though sometimes we can have an aging vehicle, but if it's still doing relatively good and looks good on the road, we're not in no hurry to replace that vehicle. So I do rely on our fleet department to say, you know, look, man, this thing's steady coming in for service, we're having these issues with it, and we make a decision based on that. It's kind of my theory of what I do.
Understood. Thank you.
No more? That's it? All right. Well, we're going to move on to another one here. So, it's on the right spot. All right. The next budget I have before you here is our wastewater plant, 401-3121. The utility wastewater plant treats the city's domestic wastewater, as you know. So I'll present to you this evening that budget for the year 2022-23. The division is being funded by 401-3111, I may be wrong, 533 Water and Wastewater Operating Fund. The utility water plant division produces potable water that meets all state and federal requirements. This division ensures suitable pressure is maintained to meet all day-to-day water needs as well as the requirements demanded for emergency. Am I going to the water plant? No, wastewater plant, I'm sorry. The wastewater plant is responsible for distribution of all, I'm on the wrong ones, excuse me, guys. Excuse me. Let's start that over. I'll present to you this evening the Wastewater Plant Operations Division tentative budget for 2022-2023. This division is being funded by 401-3121-535, Water and Wastewater Operations Fund. The Utility Wastewater Plant Division treats the city's domestic wastewater to a quality that meets state and federal requirements, and in turn distributes the treated effluent back to the community in the form of reclaimed reuse water at a suitable quality and pressure to meet their irrigation needs. The responsibility of the wastewater plant is to treat and supply both residential and commercial sites with reclaimed water that meets all FDEP standards. The overall budget is increased by 37% from 2022 budget, again, with no new positions added. Personnel costs, the personnel costs decreased by 11% due primarily to the adjustment to worker compensation and life insurance adjustment, as well as no increase for overtime hours. The division is comprised of a total of 14 personnel. Again, we have no current vacancy and we are fully staffed. Operating expenses. There's 11% net increase in operating expenses over the current year, which amounts to a $290,720 increase. This was attributed mainly to line 3400, you have before you, contractual services, where there's a 23% increase due to $50,000 we allocated for painting of the storage tanks and the reuse pumps. Repair and maintenance in line 4600, there's an increase of $25,000. $20,000 of that money is for maintaining of our reclaimed water storage ponds. Line 4900, other charges, we have a 26% increase due to the increased price in sludge hauling. Line 5200, operating supplies, this is where we have our biggest hit with an increase of $101,218. This is due to the price increase of our sodium hypochlorite from 77 cents a gallon, as you heard me say earlier, to $1.08 per gallon. And the increase of polymer from $2,800 a tote to $3,500 per tote. 5250, fuel and gasoline, as we spoke earlier, we have an increase of $3,840 for that. Again, it's the cost of doing business. Fuel cost is what it is. Capital outlay. Capital outlay shows an increase. Hold your up there. $1,393,000. With $1,332 of that in line 6300 infrastructure. This increase is attributed to the Northwest Reclaimed Water Transfer Pumping Station that Vladimir Simonowski, again, will explain in the presentation later this evening. We also have allocated $332,000 toward the septic sewer replacement. And in line 6400, we have $57,000 for the replacement of this one, Commissioner Nessa, a 15-year-old Ranger, and the purchase of a new Ranger for our fog specialist who is using a loaner currently. And that is it for 3121, if you have any questions.
Any questions? Okay.
I have one real quick. The septic to sewer, what is that specifically in reference to?
We're looking at, I'm sure you've heard, aware of some people that don't have a means, or we don't have sewer out in certain areas of the city. We're under the B map where they're trying to everybody that nitrogen level down. So what we're looking at is some of the people that's in those areas. We're having what they call a distributed wastewater system that is replacing the septic tank, which helps drive the nitrogen level down. And we're allocating $332,000 this year toward that, with St. John's will a 75% match to what we do. So we're putting that money there. Again, if St. John's don't come through, or we may not, but we need to have that money there in case they do come through. We feel confident they will. And again, we're doing our homework to make sure that these systems are doing what they say. And so far, we've had pretty good prognosis, but the jury's still out. So.
Understood. So is it a specific project that we're working on, or is it something just throughout the city that there's certain areas that are just not being serviced?
Well, there is a certain, as you're aware, I'm sure, Wekiva Glen over in that area over there. We did do, I think we've done 31 or 33 where we replaced over there in the past. And there's several other homes that I think that the people have shown that they would like to benefit from this too. And so that's one of the areas that we're really working on.
So it's parceled out kind of throughout Apopka and
It is.
okay,
That area is
understood. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And just to reiterate the last question, last time, it doesn't look like, because you don't even have overtime, that you're going to have any personnel needs soon. Again, kind of the same scenario 4 or 5 years out, or?
Yes, sir. Here's the thing, Commissioner Bankson. As you remember last time I was up here in the budget, we talked about, we're 8 million gallon a day plant on the wastewater side. And we got with DEP because our flow rates now are about 3.2, 3.3 million. As you know, we have 2 separate plants there, the one that we modified and the new plant. Well, the new plant's rated at 5 million gallons per day. We got a variance from DEP that says instead of having, if you're over 5 million gallons a day, you have to operate 24 hours a day. We got a variance with them where we say, hey, we're at 3.2, and if we operate just the new plant, which helps the one that will meet the national requirements, nitrogen requirement, we got a variance where we could go 16 hours, which we're still on call. SCADA will monitor that. So we got to cut down some on personnel and use some of that personnel in other areas. And so the threshold of when we would have to go back to that is once we get over that 5 million gallons per day, then we will need to readjust and add personnel. But right now, we're good on personnel.
So with the incoming building, I think they said yesterday we're 9,900 units.
Yes, sir.
That are in the docket at this point. At what point does that push us over that limit?
We're keeping a close eye on that, and again, our engineers are looking and doing, and as you know, I think you spoke on it through 2007, 2008. We thought for sure everything was going to be going right before that, and then the bottom fell out. Right. We're watching, and you're exactly right. Looking at some of the building and everything that's going, you're saying, man, we got to get ahead of this. And again, we want to be ready, but at the same time, we don't want to be caught you know, on either side of that coin, be ready. But I feel as if right now we're in fairly good shape. Like I say, just to tell you, looking back at our flows 5 years ago, we was at 2.93 million. We're about 3.2, 3.3 now. So if you look at that growth over the last 4 years, 5 years, and we're watching that, and we track that number. I mean, it's part of our requirement with the state of what our flows are coming in and stuff. So that's where we're at right now. Again, we know boom can really take off, and we call it boom now, but it can go, but we also know that it can nosedive too.
Well, interest rates obviously are going up, which is slowing
Yes.
down housing, and
Absolutely.
we won't even get into that discussion, so.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions on that? I just got one. This might be a question for Edward. Have we written off the West Fertilizer plant? I mean, West
Which one are we doing?
You're talking about the-
wastewater plant and the fertilizer plant? Do you know if we've written that off as far as an asset?
It's still an asset, maybe be on our books,
This is not so friendly.
but it's not in use,
Right.
so it's not gonna have any value on, you have it as an asset, but it's not, how do I want to say that? So it's on the books, but we're not using it, so it's not included in, we can't use it for rate recovery or.
We can't get, right, we can't
No,
get rate
it's
recovery,
just-
but that
it's
doesn't,
an extra asset.
still an asset.
Correct. We're still paying debt on it too.
Okay, right, okay.
And I know this is for another topic, but
Oh, there it is.
I'll just say this. The old
So now-
existing plant that's been modified is not going to meet the strict nitrogen requirements in the future, so.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Thank you.
It's
Okay,
taking real long to get to.
next up, George.
Get to the page.
Which one did he go to? Huh?
Water maintenance.
Maintenance. Water maintenance, okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is George Garcia, Public Services Utility Maintenance Manager. I will be presenting to you the Water Maintenance Division tentative budget for fiscal year 2022-2023. This division is being funded by 401-3141 Enterprise Fund. The Water Maintenance Division is responsible for the maintenance and repairs of water mains, reuse mains, fire hydrants, and water service connections, backflow preventers, as well as utility locating. As you can see from the budget summary table, the following can be explained. Personnel costs, that increased by 1%, due primarily to adjustment to salary increases and life insurance adjustments. Operating expenses, there's a 0% net increase in that field. There was some increase on fuel and in gasoline, but overall, with the other decreases on the operating, it amounted to no increase. Capital outlay, we have an increase of 26% due to the addition of water main upgrades needed for Villa Lane and Lisa Lane due to continuous water main issues. That project is going to be further explained by Vladimir. Overall, the budget increased by 4%. Any questions?
Any questions?
This beautiful picture of this fire hydrant, how do we keep them all looking like that? Because
Yeah.
that's been, some
We're,
people have been.
we're
concerned.
working on that, and we do have a schedule where they're all in our GIS, and, you know, that's a process. We modify where we do some minor inspection and still be able to make sure they're functioning and getting painted. So we're working on that, and hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have a better idea on when we'll be able to get to all of them and get them all updated and painted.
And not just functioning, but painted, looking sharp and everything. So same.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
So
So you don't know how many right now, but
how
you're gonna
many,
go. and-
we are, I think we're about 50%. We have 1,800 and, let me see, 1,880 fire hydrants. So I think we're about 50% there, and we're working on creating the schedule so that way we can get a better idea on how long it's going to take us to get to all of them, because we are required to perform the maintenance at least once a year. So we're trying to get to that point where we are meeting that requirement.
So that was actually a good question. Because I used to see the firefighters go out and test all these hydrants.
They perform flow testing for their ISO. We perform the maintenance on them.
Oh,
So
you
we
perform?
actually break down, grease them, oil them, and do that. So we're doing some flow testing as well for the unincorporated Orange County fire hydrants, because Orange County doesn't do the flow test for those, so we're performing the flow test on those.
So we currently have 1,885 hydrants that are around the
100
city?
Yes, 1,885.
And does that include the south side of Apopka, the unincorporated?
It includes portions of that unincorporated Orange County, yes.
Okay.
Well, actually, all of it, sorry.
It
All of
includes-
South Apopka, yes. It's
It does include all of South Apopka, okay.
No, it's only city, only city,
Only city?
yes.
Well, that is still considered unincorporated Orange County. There is no utilities. It's all our utilities on South Apopka.
So how far down does that go? Do we know how far that? Keene Road, okay. Yeah,
There is some several water hydrants over there, but we got some as well.
So that's kind of that issue that some have felt confused about, well, I'm paying Apopka for my
Yeah,
water, then I
right.
should be able, and they're actually not in the city, but because we're servicing that, we still
Correct.
take care of those hydrants.
yeah, just like the fire department taking care of the out by Rock Springs. Yep,
Yeah, I just want to make sure we have what we need to be able to get those caught up and
We
just
do, we
kinda
have one
looking good.
person there. We're looking into filling a vacant position to assist them with that.
So we already have the position funded, but it's vacant right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, next, be presenting the wastewater maintenance division budget. Let me get to that page.
So just one question, where you said you have one vacancy, are you currently have this job posted?
We're working on reviewing it and updating so that we can post it and make sure that we get a,
So
Good
it is,
candidate.
it isn't posted
it's
right
not,
now?
we're reviewing it right now and we'll be posting it soon.
So prior to this, was anybody doing this?
Yes, there is one person performing the hydrant maintenance. We do assist doing that with other guys that can perform the maintenance as well, but we want to hire somebody that only, that's their primary role. So right now, we're kind of moving people in and out of assisting this one person.
And so does that person have to have a certain certification for the hydrant?
It's just the experience and be able to perform the test or the maintenance. There is no certification that comes with it. It's
Okay.
only a water distribution license that you need.
Okay. No certification. Okay, thank you.
All right, no problem. So next, presenting the wastewater maintenance division tentative budget for fiscal year 2022, 2023. This division is being funded by 401-3171 Enterprise Fund. The wastewater division is responsible for their overall maintenance and repairs of force mains, gravity mains, manholes, lift stations, and sewer service connections. As you can see from the budget summary table, the following can be explained. Personnel costs, this decreased by 3% due primarily to adjustments made to the overtime compensation. I think last year we were over, so we adjusted that, and now it's been reduced. Operating expenses, there's a 7% increase. There was an increase for fuel and gasoline, gravity main and lift station repairs, and odor control chemicals. Capital outlay, we show a decrease of 2%. This is due primarily to a force main that was budgeted on fiscal year 2021, 2022. That's no longer on this budget year. Overall, the budget increased by 1%. Any questions?
I have one quick question. In reference to the overtime adjustment, you're saying, can you just speak a little more, give me a little more detail about that? What happened, I guess, last year? What are we changing this year? And is it a need for additional personnel, or what does that look like?
No, it's just we reviewed the budget and look at our expenses, what we actually spent the last year or compared to this year, and we adjusted it to actually represent an actual closer number to what.
Oh, God, so it's not that we're taking away opportunities for overtime, it's just we over budgeted, didn't use it.
Over-budgeted.
Gotcha. Understood.
Any questions? All right, next up is Vladimir Sibanovsky.
What's the next one?
All right, I'll start first, and Glenn will be coming back for the 3191, which is the maintenance operations. So
Which one are we on now?
we are on 3410. This is the design engineering.
There it is, thank you. This is, I'm looking at this and this. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Mayor, Commissioners, you probably all know me by now. My name is Vladimir Simonovsky. I'm a utility design manager with the Public Services Department, leading the design engineering group. We have, this is the enterprise fund, budget line 3410. We're working mainly on the utilities planning and engineering. We have three separate groups here. We have activities and basically and programs managed. They're planning and engineering program. We have the construction management program, and we have the asset management program under a group. So the planning and engineering program covers the utilities capital improvement program, the utilities rehabilitation and replacement program, and the utilities development review. This is all new developments that come for review and approval before construction. Construction management program covers the project management and the construction inspection. The project management is related to all the in-house projects we're doing, while the construction inspection covers all the in-house projects and all the developers' projects. And the asset management program consists of two subgroups, which is the Geographic Information System, GIS administration, and the Public Works and Utilities asset management. So last year we have, if you look at the overall budget, we have total of 8% change increase. And the main thing that changes here is the personnel cost. Last year we had 917,000.9. And this year we have 1.1 million overall, which is increase of about 20.5%. Now, we're not changing any full-time employees. We had 9 full-time employees last year. We still stick with the 9 full-time employees. The only change that happened here is the city engineer who was under the general fund now is doing more work also assisting the utility fund. So we have moved the city engineer from the general fund to the utility fund, while we are giving one of the positions to IT right now. So we're still gonna remain with the 9 full-time employees, which is 1 full-time employee is the city engineer, who is a professional engineer. That's Mr. Richard Earp here. We have 3 full-time employees in the planning and engineering program. 2 of them are professional engineers. One is myself, and the other one is our senior engineer, and we have 1 position that is a junior engineer. 3 full-time employees we have in the construction management program, which is 1 construction coordinator and 2 construction inspectors. And we have 2 full-time employees in the asset management program, which is 1 GIS analyst and 1 GIS tech. So no changes there. And as I said, the main difference is the personnel, which we have an increase of about 20.5%. We have on the supplies and other services, which is the operating expenses, about 63% budget decrease. And we have about 100% decrease, actually total decrease in the capital outlay. And the main reason for this is we don't have any new software applications that we need to acquire. We're pretty much based on subscriptions. Everything that we have, we're currently using. We're not planning on any new acquisitions this fiscal year. Maybe in the coming years, more things will come. And we believe we are up to date with the technology, so we feel confident with that. The overall budget line 3410, therefore, has an 8% of budget increase. So do you have any questions about this before I move on to the capital improvement program budget?
Okay, I'm here in the capital.
This one's pretty straightforward, so I don't believe we have any major changes here, just shifting of what position.
Okay, go on to the next one.
So the capital improvement program, which we call the CIP budget, we take care of that. And as I mentioned earlier during the conversation with George, the utility, we cover the entire utility service area. And our utility service area, we have 3 different utility service areas, right? One for water, one for sewer, and one for reclaimed water. The water and reclaim are pretty much identical. The wastewater or the sewer, it expands all the way to Mount Dora. So we have a little bit of more area there. And the total, if we look at the overall, it's about 106 square miles, which is pretty much the size of the entire city of Orlando. But if we take out the water bodies, we're at about 60-something, which is still almost twice the size of the jurisdictional area that the city has, which is about 34 point something, and I think it's 33 without the water bodies in the city. So that's pretty significant. So that means we have to expand the utilities and provide services to all these areas, to almost Lake County and down to Orange County and almost Mount Dora to the other side on the west. So that's pretty significant, and that's why we have a lot of capital improvement projects. We have in the capital improvement program, we have 2 funds, which is the 401 operating fund and the 403 utilities impact fee fund. The operating fund, it's funded through the utility rates, while the 403 fund is funded by the utility impact fees for both water, sewer, and reclaim. So for this new fiscal year, we're proposing $3.84 million in the operating fund in the 401. And we're also going to have a rollover of about $2.2 million. In the 403 Utilities Impact Fee Fund, we are proposing $15.67 million, and we have a rollover of about $10.5 million with a project that we currently started in this current fiscal year, and they're going to continue past September 30th, right? So we're going to go into the new fiscal year, so we have to roll over these funds. Some of them are already expended.
Are you on a different page? Because here it's showing 0 capital outlay, which you still have.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. So we're showing the capital outlays for the 3410. All the capital improvement program projects, they're funded through the other funds, 3111, 3121. So 3111 is the water plants, 3121 the wastewater plant operations, 3141 the water maintenance, and the 3171 is the sewer maintenance. So all those projects are funded actually, they're in the 401 operating fund, are funded through these 4 separate line budgets.
Okay.
So I apologize for that confusion, but I thought that we addressed that earlier.
So because they're funded there, there's 0 here.
Correct, yes. So that's only the
Okay.
capital for the 3410.
Okay.
So basically, we're looking at the overall between the operating 401 and the Utilities Impact Fee Fund 403, we're looking at $19.5 million for the capital improvement program for this year. And we're going to have another 12.73 roughly rollovers for the projects we're doing in the current year. They're going to continue in the following year. So we're basically managing this coming into the new fiscal year. We'll be managing another over $32 million, which is significant. So we do have a lot of projects, and we do have a small group of engineers and construction management personnel and inspectors. So we take pride of that, and they're really dedicated personnel, and we appreciate all their contribution to the city. We go by the individual projects. I can mention briefly just a few. For example, the 401 water operating. What is funded under 3111, which Glenn mentioned earlier, is we have a $50,000 dedicated for distribution flow meters replacement, and we're going to put another $50,000 for the following year. So we're looking at roughly $25,000 per water plant. We have 5 water plants. We already replaced the one at Grossenbacher, so we have the remaining 4. We're going to divide it within 2 years, and we'll try to replace that. That will help eventually with the water loss. So that's kind of minor investment. The larger investment is the replacement of the well number 3 at the Plymouth Regional Water Treatment Plant. So as we talked last year about this, what's happening is the consumptive use permit, CUP, that is issued by the State Water Management District, they require that all water wells be lower to the lower Floridan aquifer, right? So we cannot withdraw from the upper Floridan aquifer. We have 4 wells remaining currently. One at the Grossenbacher plant, which is under design, final design now. It should be advertised in a month or two. And we have 3 more. They are 300 gallons per minute each capacity at the Plymouth Regional. This is one of the water plants that we acquired almost 15 years ago from Orange County. So the one at Grossenbacher, we're going to be fully replacing with another one. It's going to go to the lower Florida aquifer. And the other 3, we're going to abandon the other 3 at Plymouth Regional, and we're going to drill only 1 new with a capacity that is more than the capacity that those 3 has currently. So that will take care of the permit, and we're going to be in full compliance with the state regarding the consumptive use permit, which is good right now till 2031, I believe. So that's a good thing. So what we're looking at, the Plymouth Regional Water Treatment Plant, the well number 3 replacement, because we're increasing capacity, we have to put 60% to match what is the current capacity of 900 gallons per minute for the 3 wells total. But the new well will be 1,500 gallons per minute, right? So we're increasing about 40% capacity there. So we're gonna pay 60%, which is 660,000. This is divided between 2 years, 660 for this year, 660 for the following year, from the 401, from the operating fund, because that needs to go through the utility rates. And then the other 40% will come from the impact fee funds. So just for clarity. And the same thing is happening with the Grossenbacher plant. Now, that's not on the list right now, but because it was already budgeted in this fiscal year. And we anticipated to start construction earlier, but we had to go through additional permitting with St. John's because we're also increasing capacity there. So the original well has a capacity of 1,000 gallons per minute. We're increasing it to 3,500 gallons per minute, which means that only 28.5% we can use through the utility rates we can fund. And we're finding that through the, through the 401 operating fund, while the other 71.5% needs to come from the utility impact fees. So that's just for clarity again. It looks a little bit convoluted, but that's the way accounting works, government accounting. We have to follow these directions. So those are the 2 projects they're funding in 3111. And then we also have in the 3141, we have $100,000 for the miscellaneous potable water system pipelines, connections and repairs. We have $500,000 for the potable water system pipelines rehabilitation and replacement program. And we have $250,000 for a specific project, which is the Wheeler Lane and Lisa Lane pipeline upgrades. These are all coming from the 3141 budget line, which is under George, and he mentioned some of that earlier. Now, the rehabilitation replacement program, I have to mention that. It's not on my list here, but we applied for a federal grant, and Mayor was involved in that, and we're expecting to get $2.5 million over a 3-year period. So far what we final okay, and that's gonna be, money will be dispersed through the states, and it's gonna, they will be spent over a 3-year period. So that's why we are funding this a little bit each year, so we're gonna have to have a 50% match to it. So that's the plan.
And that's for the wells, for all these different projects?
This is strictly for replacement of asbestos and galvanized pipe.
Okay.
Yes.
And so if for some reason that didn't come in, where does that put us? And will we have to, do we have enough funding set aside? Will that need to be a change in rates? I mean, how would we make that up, just in case, and when? So you're doing it?
Yeah, at that point, we may have to look into different options. I mean, right now, we only funded for what we believe it will be the 50% match for the city. Now, we strongly believe we're gonna get this money. Now, if something happens and we don't get the money, then we'll sit down, we'll evaluate and see how we're gonna fund these programs.
So there's strong indication that
Yes.
it should go through?
Yes, yeah, he passed the 2 committees.
Okay.
That's a very good question that you asked, well, Commissioner, but I just want to review something very quickly here. On that 0% outlet, that is for the design section itself, the operation, right? What Vlad is explaining here in those lines, like 3111, right? Those were the project that was listed that Glenn and George had described in those appropriation line already. The only thing with those projects are capital improvement project, but it's reflected in those lines, which means it is under his preview in the design section there. I just want to make that for clarification.
Yep.
The other thing is, you heard about the asbestos pipe, because we understand that there may be some grant fund that will be coming. in the event that we don't get the grant fund, right, that money can still be used because it's in our program to replace those. So, but if we can get the grant fund, we can accomplish more, right? So it's still in there to be used for that.
So we're covered, that will just basically
Correct,
make
correct,
us swim. Okay.
correct. I just want to make sure that is cleared here. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Is there another?
Yeah. Thanks, Dio, for clarifying that. We can look into the wastewater sewer 401 fund, the operating fund. We have a few projects, we have a few projects that we're funding through the proposed fiscal year. We have $500,000 for the lift station rehabilitation replacement program, and that's funded under the 3171 line. So that's the one that George is managing again. And we also have under the same budget line, 3171, we have proposed $100,000 for the miscellaneous wastewater system pipelines, connections, and repairs, the same thing we did with the water lines. And we have $200,000 for the wastewater system pipelines rehabilitation and replacement program. Again, these are outdated lines that we believe they're at the end of life and they just need to be replaced. And so those are the major projects. On the reclaimed water side, we also have under 3171, $100,000 also for the miscellaneous reclaimed water now system pipelines connection repairs. And we have another $100,000 for the reclaimed water pipelines rehabilitation and replacement program. Now, two other projects that we have, and these are coming in 3121 budget line, that's under Glenn. We have $750,000 for the Northwest Recreation Complex reclaimed water storage. This is the Northwest Pond transfer pump station. And the design is pretty much completed. This is the money for construction. And we're gonna have another $200,000 for design for the, the West Pond at the same facility, the Northwest Recreation Complex, for another transfer pump station that's gonna come into the 3121 budget line. So these projects are important because we're trying to create a balance in a reclaimed water system and moving water. When we have a low water, we need to pull water from the ponds. We need to send it back to the ground storage tanks, to the reclaimed water plants for public use. And of course, when we have an excess of that, we need to place them back into the ponds. So these are these two projects are specifically for that purpose. I
I'm sorry,
believe.
can you repeat that? You have 750,000
So
for the
750,000 is designated in the budget line 3121. That's for the construction of the transfer pump station for the Northwest Pond. That's the little pond in the northwest section of what we call the Northwest Recreation Complex, right?
Okay.
Over there on Jason Dwell. It's the one that you can see from Epi Lane, actually.
From where?
Epi Lane, from the street that comes.
Oh, Appy Lane,
Yes.
Appy Lane.
And the other 200,000, that's gonna be for design. And we're gonna have another 1.5 million eventually coming in the next fiscal year for construction of the same type of a transfer pump station, but this is for the larger pond on the west side, which is the one to the left on the west side of the other pond with the fountain. This is the one without the fountain.
Okay.
We may put another fountain there, maybe.
Okay.
It's gonna look nice, and it's gonna have with aeration of that water.
So that one is just a design?
That one is just for design, correct?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other
for
questions?
Vlad?
Well, I have one. You said we're gonna abandon 3 wells and we're gonna put in a new well. Where will the new well go?
Correct. This is at Plymouth Regional Water Plant. This is the one of, it used to have an access from Plymouth Sorrento, but since they built the 429 extension there, now the access comes from Yoris Road. It's just on the west side of the highway.
Any other questions for Vlad? All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Who we got next?
All right, Lad, where'd you leave me at? Go to the bottom. All right, now I found it. Let's go to my land use.
Which one are you going to now?
We're gonna go to 3191, utility plant.
Okay, you know what I noticed on all of them, it says 401, 401, 401.
Yes, that's what it's gonna be, the first few, and then. I think
And then-
401. Yeah.
Okay,
You good, Commissioner Vasquez?
okay,
You there?
let me see. Okay. So each of them have a different number, because you just referred to a different number.
Yeah, 3191, 401, 3191.
But that's not listed here.
Yes, it should.
Where does that say 3191?
Okay, let's
I know
go
we're
up.
all kind of learning this whole
That's okay.
system.
Let's go up.
At the very top there.
Yeah. Yes,
At the very top?
yeah.
Where does it say that?
Go up
31?
the top.
There it is, okay. Thank you. I'm looking in here.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
now I see where you have it. Thank you.
Utility plant maintenance? You
Yes.
see that? Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, ma'am.
Up in the header.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Yes, Okay, it's me again. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Glenn Brooks, Water Resource Manager. I'm presenting to you this evening the Utility Plant Maintenance Division tentative budget for fiscal year 2022-23. The division is being funded, again, 401-3191. The Utility Plant Division, I call it still a newly established division. It's about 6 years old, of the Public Service Department. Its function is to provide the preventative, predictive, and corrective maintenance for the water plants, the water reclamation facility, and the 3 reclaim pumping stations we have. The overall budget is increased by 11% from the 2022 budget, with no new positions added. Personnel costs. The personnel costs stayed flat with no increase. This division is comprised of a total of 9 personnel. And again, we have no current vacancies. We are fully staffed. Operating expenses. There is a 37% net increase in operating expenses over the current year, which amounts to a $161,675 increase. This was attributed to repair and maintenance in the 4600 line. There's an increase there of $134,500, and that is mainly due to parts and materials price increase. In line 5200, operating supplies, it increased by $17,842, again, due to the cost increase of operating supplies. 5250, fuel and gasoline, we done beat that drum enough times, but we have an increase of $6,833, and that is for the fuel cost increase. Capital outlay costs, we didn't have capital outlay costs, shows a decrease, a decrease of 9%. And in line 6400, we have $106,000 allocated for the replacement of our SCADA panels and miscellaneous equipment. And that is it for that budget. If you have any questions, any questions?
Do we warehouse any parts, just basic parts for repair and keep those, with supply chain issues going on everywhere?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we do, Commissioner Banks, and we have we're using the old plant we had there. We have with the old blower room, we're using it as a maintenance supply, and we do have some SCADA panels and stuff in there that we do some of our equipment, and we're trying to we keep essential things that we need on a day-to-day basis. As far as, bigger stuff, it's kind of, to buy some of those, I'm just saying, if you was gonna buy, like, say, a pump or something, you say, man, because you don't know how long it may take. I'll use, for instance, like an aerator or something. You pay $300,000 or $400,000. Yeah, you can keep it in an air-conditioned room and say, well, we got it if this thing goes out. But really, if you don't have those windings and you're not using turning thing, when you get ready to put that thing online, the vendors will tell you that's not warranted and stuff. So really, you just about got to, you're at the mercy of that, on some of those things. But
Yeah,
yes, we do. Yeah.
I understand that, but like seals, just typical
Yeah.
things that can go bad, we have them on hand.
Yes, sir, we do.
So that it
Yes.
can keep us up and running. But
Yes,
like
sir.
you said, certain things, if they're just sitting there, it's like an airplane
Yeah,
engine.
yeah.
You've got to run them consistently or it'll end up
Yes,
just
sir.
being destroyed even though it's not being used. So.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we do that.
Any other questions for Lynn? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And where are we?
So Commissioner, we just finished the 401 Utility Operation Fund. We are going to move to the General Fund,
Okay.
001. And
So we go back.
that fund, two division, the facility
back.
maintenance, well, division and the fleet. So I'm going to call on Charles to speak on behalf of the fleet. So Charles?
The landing page. I'm still
Good
getting
evening,
used to
Mr. Mayor
this.
and City
Here we are.
Commissioners.
So we
Charles
go
Stevenson,
to-
Fleet Superintendent. And to answer your question, Mr. Nesta, on sanitation vehicles, we are 8 to 10 years, and 10 to 12 on public
It
service
says
vehicles.
utilities.
And right now, we have the personnel, we're 13 positions in fleet.
Wastewater.
We have 3 vacancies right now, and they are posted,
Should have been
with
raised by,
a 3%
say,
increase
90.
for workers' comp, overtime, things like that.
There
Our
it is.
over operating expenses, we have a 18% decrease due to the new fleet service vehicle and a new Ford Ranger. Cut all our maintenance costs way down from our older vehicles that we did have. And the capital outlay, we're looking at a 2% increase, asking for a new forklift of $25,000 for a new Komatsu that we need at fleet.
Does she know that?
That's pretty much our budget's flat.
Any questions for Charles? Good, thank you, sir, appreciate
Appreciate you
it.
answering my question.
So the next is Alan. And he's going to speak on behalf of the Facility Maintenance Well Division. And Alan is doing double role. He's helping out
Which one are we
us
going to?
administer the facility administration. And as well, he's working as the managing the inspection section for design as well. So he's doing dual role, but he's not
Okay, here
being
we are.
compensated yet for this role.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mr. Mayor. My name's Alan Jewell. I'm here to speak to you about the Facilities Maintenance Division tentative budget for 22-23. This division is funded 001-1022. Division is responsible for cleaning, maintenance, security, and renovations of all city facilities. As you can see from the table, let me roll this down. Sorry. There you go. As you can see from the table, the highlighted changes of the budget are one on the personnel cost. The personnel cost increases by 5%, roughly $19,000, due primarily to adjustments to workmen's compensation, life insurance adjustment, as well as increase in overtime hours requested. No new positions are requested. This division is comprised a total of 3 personnel. 1 is in a drop position, and currently we have 2 vacant positions. Operating expenses on number 2, there's an 11% net increase in the operating expenses over the current year, which amount to $117,472 increase. This was attributed mainly to line 4600, increase for repairs and facilities maintenance in the amount of $108,000. Line 43, utility services, increase for electricity, water, trash, natural gas of $50,000. And line 5250, fuel and gasoline, increase of $8,800. Line 3100 decreases the budget from professional services, $50,000 for the architectural engineering services for a fleet facility. So it offsets the 50 on the others, 4,300.
AJ.
Capital outlay.
AJ, just a little bit louder for me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I should
just a
take
little
my-
bit.
I
yeah.
should take my hearing aids out because it sounds like I'm screaming.
Okay.
I'm trying to get used to them, but, okay, so, I'm sorry. Capital outlay, if I speak tell me, too loud.
No,
It's honest to
actually,
God. It
loud
sound
would
like I'm
be
hollering.
easier. Yeah.
And I don't want to be hollering.
Yeah.
Capital outlay cost. The capital outlay cost showed a decrease of 39%, mainly due to us delaying the acquisition of a service truck for a new technician, as well as delaying the replacement of another service truck, a F-150 that we've got in production, and delaying the museum expansion. And that's pretty much the bulk of the changes on that. Any questions?
Any questions for AJ?
So why are we delaying those? Because we don't need them, or just to try and,
Well, we're
budget
looking to
now?
try to get ready for a potential downturn and not spending any money that we don't absolutely have to spend. No, the two vacant positions is the administrator and an electrician, and that guy's gonna need a truck, and it's gonna need to be an enclosed truck so that we can keep everything dry that we're taking around in it. I'm currently doing assessments on your facilities, and at some point in time, I'll be probably standing back up here in front of y'all at some point in time. We've got some upgrades. We're gonna be upgrading this room here, but that's in the budget. And,
so right now, the two vacant positions are not really needed because you're analyzing what needs to be done, and then at a later point, then we're gonna need to step up?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And
We've got
this is
some-
probably one of my biggest areas to want to make sure, do we have any roofs that, I know we had been catching up a lot of things. So are you still in the middle of appraising all that, or?
Yes.
Or are we good, first of all, for our roofs?
I've got a couple of roofs that I'm anticipating have some bids back this week on, and so far, everything's covered under the budget. We're gonna use
They'll
it
be
out
under
of this year's budget.
not
So-
next year's.
So we're all good. I'm trying to get everything taken care of this year that we can. So that should be,
And why are we delaying the museum?
I'm sorry, sir?
Why are we delaying the construction of the museum?
Well, that's a good question. That's going to go above my head, but I don't think that they're ready to do the expansion on the museum at this point.
We are, I mean, it's waiting, we just got the architect on retainer now, so we can have the architect design the extra room, and so it'll probably get done this year.
That will come back, once we have that design, Commissioner, it will come back to you because we have some funding earmarked.
Yeah.
They have funding, we have funding. It will come back as a budget amendment once we have the design.
Most of it'll be covered.
Most of it will be covered.
Okay,
From their
and-
funding.
And then my second question, it says that you maintain all of the city facilities, that include the fire stations?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Commissioner Nestor mentioned something about a dryer vent that was venting into the room instead of to the outside.
Yes, sir. I went out there to fire station number 2 and number 3 this morning. I got a call today and went out there to them and saw it. I've got a plan to vent them through the roof and get them out so that is no longer an issue. It won't be an issue, and it's a pretty easy fix. So it won't, I got to drill a couple holes in the wall, but that's about it.
That was gonna be my question. I appreciate you answering that. No, that's great, that we're taking care of that. That was it was gonna be the museum and that one as well, so thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're going to take care of our firefighters,
That's right.
that's for sure.
So you said we're going through the roof, not breaking through the wall into the bay?
No.
Okay.
We're not going to put that hot damp air into the bay. No, sir. We're going to
Okay.
go up and go through. Those two buildings have two separate elevations of the roof, and we're gonna go through between the two roofs, so it'll be up on, out of the way, and we'll have it taken care of.
Will it be a maintenance cleaning issue as far as the?
We will do a PMI on it, and I'm gonna have a clean out installed in the wall, so, because I'll have to make 3 bends in order to get there, so, yeah.
And is
we're
that
gonna-
type of thing scheduled, that you do
Yes.
those? Okay.
Well, our guys, we got to do PMIs anyway on the generators out there and the air conditioners and all that, so we can just put it into the PMI on it, so it should be automatic. Or it will be going forward anyway.
Good, yeah, because that is a source of home fires, and I'm sure our police department, or our fire department knows.
Oh, yes, sir.
to
Yes,
take care of
sir.
that.
We don't
Okay.
need a fire.
Thank you,
Any
AJ,
other questions?
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, just one question for AJ. I remember over at Northwest by the amphitheater, they were talking about building a second bathroom. Are we building a second bathroom? Is that,
Yes, ma'am.
okay?
That'll be under the Parks and Recs.
Oh, that would be on the Parks and Recs?
Yeah.
Okay,
Recreation's got the funding, and as soon as they sign the dotted line, I'll see about getting them a building over there.
okay, thank you.
You got it.
Mayor, Commissioners, Josh Robinson, Public Works Operations Manager. I'm going to talk about the sanitation 402 fund, that's
Okay,
3210.
now where is that? General fund,
It's not up there on this one. No.
just give me a moment while okay, you're doing sanitation. There we are. Okay.
Okay, so just a couple of quick highlights, some of the positive highlights for sanitation coming up. We're going to ask for a small truck for what I call a pup route. They were going to add some areas that are just too small. We currently do some areas that you can't get a big truck in, but we want to add some areas where we're just slowly over time doing property damage to adjacent property or city property with the big trucks. And we've put some monies in for some community outreach regarding recycling and recycling contamination. And we're also going to be coming back in a few weeks to ask you for a 6% rate increase for the residential and the commercial for the sanitation division. So overall, the increases, personnel costs was 2%. That's largely the addition of the operator for that pup route. And in addition to salary increases. Operating expenses increased overall by 29%. Some of the large items there was line 4,300 tipping fees, which we actually broke that out into its own line, but that's about 300,000 increase, just largely due to increased waste volume and waste rates. That's Orange County's, my contact over there has told us to plan for a 4% increase for the next several years.
Per year?
On tipping fees.
Per
Yes,
year?
yes, sir. 4,400 in rentals and leases due to the fires. We've had to increase the budget for truck rentals for this year and next year, as well as just the normal amount we've had to use for that due to, extended downtime, or if we have to ship a truck out more than just 2 or 3 weeks, we have to bring in a replacement. The promotions line, 4,800, that's 18,000 for outreach and education for recycling. The county has actually started back up. The COVID kind of put it on the sidetrack, a new material processing facility for the recycling. And along with that will come a new interlocal agreement with them on that issue. And also some opportunities to either pay less for the processing or depending on commodity values, we could even get some revenues out of it. So we want to start trying to, that's if it's clean, if it's dirty, it all goes to the trash. So we're going to try to invest a little bit in that. And then finally, 4903 temp labor increased by about 95,000. That's a big chunk of that is for the temp laborer that'll be on that pup route, in addition to rate increases. We got hit pretty hard last year with rate increases for temps. Capital outlay increased by 70%. So in addition to our scheduled replacements of a claw truck and a F-250, we also put a down payment on 2 vehicles that were in the CIP for 2024 because of the supply chain issues and having to wait, 12, 14, 16 months for a truck. And then, of course, we'll have to replace the 3 trucks we lost in the fire. We bought 2 diesel engines for the front-load trucks. We weren't able to find a rear loader, so we're doing a rental there. And then, so we'll buy the new CNG rear loader and buy 2 new CNG front loaders to replace the 2 diesel engines that we did buy. So, and that, a lot of that will be covered with the COVID recovery monies, and then the insurance, and then the sale of the used, or the diesel trucks that we just bought. So get us back into the CNG on all that. So, and yeah, so just in general, and Commissioner Nessa on the trucks, yeah, we've started, we budget, I've got a plan out to 2032. That's when I plan to retire. So I've got the trucks and the personnel. I kind of keep pretty close tabs on the tonnage, the house counts, our total hours as a group, and then the growth rate, to figure out what we need. So we got a pretty solid plan on staying up to that. And we've started, Charlie and I both have managed to, over the years, lower the years of operation. A garbage truck just doesn't last 10 or 12 years like we had been doing it. And so we keep them 8 years on the front line, 10 years as a spare, and then we get rid of them totally. And so we're actually, I'm looking forward to this year. That one of those down payments is to replace one of the first CNG trucks we bought in 2014 when I first started here. So yeah, we're actually replacing a truck. That'll be the first one we placed on time. So yeah, that'll be pretty exciting. So, questions?
Any questions?
In reference to the temp labor, would it be cheaper to hire another personnel, or the temp labor works best?
Well, no, it wouldn't be cheaper, and we have considered that. I mean, it's just hard to, that's a hard job, and it's hard to keep people, and we've even tried to hire the temps on full-time, and that don't always work as good as we hope either. Somehow they're a temp for a reason sometimes, so, yeah, we do consider that. We have considered it, and especially for long-term permanent. It's just, we already struggle with like maintenance worker ones and those type positions is already, and yeah, so this always gives us a backup. If you hire them and they don't show, you're just short a guy. With temps, there's somebody else they can, and oddly, we have a real consistent staff from there. The same guys will be here for months, sometimes years, but then they'll do something boneheaded, and one guy found a gun in a couch we picked up and didn't think maybe I should tell the boss about that. So you got that kind of stuff. But good question. We do consider it.
All right, and then my second question is a concern that comes from some of the citizens, in that some of the neighborhoods, the trees that overhang the road, they're really low-lying, so when the sanitation trucks come through, they're really pruning the trees. I don't know if we have some kind of a system where we can do the maintenance on getting those trees up out of the way from beating up against the sanitation trucks when they come through these neighborhoods.
Yeah, that's definitely part of what we'll address with streets maintenance. Also, and I think you've been hearing about our asset management program. That has a lot of features that we'll use to help schedule this stuff proactively. So a driver that's out there can just hit a button and create a work order. As it is now, he's got to remember to tell his supervisor, who's got to remember to tell me, who's got to remember to tell streets to go out and trim the trees. So we have to streamline a lot of those type of things.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Refresh me again, why did our trucks combust?
So we don't really know for sure. We had, the fire marshal came out and there was nothing, just solid on it. The rodents.
Rodent eat part of the
rodents is the real thing that we struggle with, keeping them off the trucks. And that's the best guess, based just on our knowledge of them, that could have even been a dead short onto a gas line that allowed gas to escape and ignite all at once, you know. But yeah, it oddly happens more frequently. The district manager for waste management here, I called him to just see if we could depend on them as a backup in case we got behind on the service, which luckily we didn't. Too bad. And he's like, yeah, he says, it's kind of like a brotherhood. I feel sorry for you because I've had this happen before. One of my old peers works out in Houston. He had a big hauling company, waste management, and yeah, he's had issues like that. You have to have too much space to space them all out because they do catch a fire. Either fires behind the engine can light, fires in the body. That was not the case, either one of those this time with ours, you know, but they do happen. And we actually had one of the parking spaces was empty, and it still caught the one next to it. So you'd have to have 20 acres to park, you know, a small fleet of trucks to spread them out. But we've talked about some ideas when we build the new facility in some new parking areas of maybe building in some space or maybe even some fire breaks and, you know, X number of trucks, you know, but hopefully this never happens again, right? That's a pretty big.
So obviously garbage is gonna attract rats. Is there, I mean, are the trucks hosed down each day? Is there
Well,
anything
the
that could
ones
be
that
done to
are
help minimize that?
Worse on are the commercial trucks, and those two trucks are the cleanest in the fleet. Those guys actually get in behind the blade and shovel it out and wash it out. We've added, facilities has added some additional rat bait stations there behind the truck. We've increased the number of those. So, you know, every little bit helps, but yeah, you just can't get rid of all of them.
Commissioner Velasquez, you good?
No, I'm
Okay,
good.
good.
They're
Thank you,
talking
Josh.
rats and, good. All right, so where are we now? So we go back. Where are we now? Sanitation, streets? Streets,
Right, the next one is Street Fund 101, Paul.
street fund, okay. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, or Commissioners, sorry. My name is Paul Hathaway, I'm Public Services Street Management. I'm here to discuss with you the Street Division. The fund is 1013412. For personnel costs increased by 6% due to operation primarily adjustments to workers' compensation and life insurance adjustments, as well as increase in overtime hours requested. No new positions are required or requested. Operation expenses. There is a 10% net increase in operation expenses over the current year, which amount to $303,444 increase. This was mainly attributed to line item 4,600, for tree removal. We're moving it from $75,000 to $100,000, so increase of $25,000. Line item 3,100, tree consultant services, we're asking for $50,000. Line item 5203, for sidewalk curb replacement, we're asking for $100,000. That wasn't currently in last year's budget. Line item 3400, row mowing contract, we're asking an increase of $120,000. Capital outline costs showing an increase of 9%. Line item 6303, sidewalks, new construction, we're asking for $100,000. Line item 6400, we're asking for a Ford F-550, $60,000. That will be replacing, we have a Dodge Ram 3500, it's a 1998. And then we're also going to put in a Ford F-350, and that's a year 2000. We'll use those to replace that.
Glad you're switching to Fords.
Pardon?
I'm glad you're switching to Fords.
Yes.
Let's not start battles.
We're asking for a smooth drum roller, that's 45,000. That will help us with what we purchased this budget year with the asphalt heater. That'll help us get a compaction down, so it will be a nicer product. We're asking for a blade dozer that will be attachment to our Bobcat. That is for $6,400. That will help us go for our shoulders, so we can cut those down to get a better grade on our roads and be able to get the water off our roads, so we won't have issues on that. And then we're asking for a backhoe motor replacement for a current backhoe we have, and that's gonna be $35,000. And a lowboy trailer for $7,500. That'll be for our roller, so we would have to put it up on such a high trailer, so it won't be such a risk. Y'all have any questions?
Any questions for Paul?
One, just kind of a little thing here, but big thing to me, 5205 graffiti removal supplies it went from 500 in 2021 to 0. Is that handled in a different place now? Or that's one of those things that, first of all, I just hate seeing it pop up. And when we get right on it, I know we dealt with this over on Sandpiper on the side of the one building, and they stayed on it till these guys gave up. And, you know, I just don't want to see our community marked that way. It also encourages, you know, the different ones in-gang activities. And, you know, I think as staying on that is an important thing. So is that handled elsewhere now, or?
No, sir, we actually incorporated that with another line item.
Okay.
So we can go in there and take care of that.
And I know sometimes if we can't just go do it if it's an owner. We have to work with the owner. But, yeah, staying on top of that is great. So
Yes, sir.
thank you, guys.
Any other questions for Paul?
I had one we're hiring a tree consultant.
Yes, sir.
I understand the words. Well, I guess what's their role?
It's an arborist. We'll have an arborist go through. We have abundance of trees in our neighborhoods, and we're getting a lot of work orders and complaints about trees that need to be, they would like them removed. So we need somebody to go through and look at those and evaluate those. And it'll also help us too in the future for our budgets to know what we're looking at, so we can get that budgeted properly and move forward with that.
So here's what happened. We had a bunch of people at Piedmont Lakes that had trees that they wanted to remove. Well, some of them didn't need to be removed, some of them did, but they had to pay $250 for an arborist to give us the go-ahead to remove it. It's not really fair for them to do that. So what I said, so they'll go through all of, Piedmont Lakes, Pines of Wekiva, some of those neighborhoods, you got a lot of the oak trees between the sidewalks in the road, and just do the whole neighborhood. And so then, okay, these 7 trees meet our guidelines for removal. Those 10 do not. So it's more efficient, it saves the homeowner the money, and they're just looking, for.
Less
a more
ambiguity,
consistent-
it's a defined.
Yep.
Got
So
that.
we just go through, and once a year, we'll go through and pay to get that
So
arborist to.
we did have an arborist go out to Piedmont Lakes, because I know
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
going with Josh and Ed, because we have one particular block that I just keep getting calls with the residents for those oak trees there.
Yes, ma'am, we do have an arborist go through that, and we actually have everything too. So if the citizen would like to have the report, we
Right.
can actually furnish that for them.
Right, and we are going to provide that report to that resident, because literally, I get a call a week. And so we have made an appointment with that resident. So the other thing is that even if the tree is not determined to be taken down and they want to take it down, how do we handle that?
that's under our, you know, if it's a big enough tree, they have to replace it.
Because all those trees are in, kind of in the right-of-ways.
Right.
Yes,
They can't replace it without
So,
a,
but as we take them down, we're not replacing those trees.
Um,
We're not replacing those trees.
no.
Okay. Well, we'll see when we go on Thursday, we'll see the particular neighborhood that's in question. And I'll
So
ask
did
the
we
questions.
remove the 3 dead ones that was on Highland? I sent Ms. Bassett a picture of those on Highland, and is that 8th? Down across, it's across from the fuel station, from the city's fueling depot.
They have that in their work orders, Commissioner, so I don't know where it's at on their schedule, but they have that as part of their schedule for this
Okay.
removal.
Yes,
So
it's
it's on
scheduled,
the-
we haven't done it yet.
It's on the list.
So do we have an arborist that we use, that we have on retainer? How do we
Yes.
do that?
Yes.
We have some, because, you know,
Right.
Adam, I don't know if that's who is used, but.
No, I
Okay.
don't know. I'll find out Thursday.
This year, we used a lady that we were doing with our
From UF.
palm trees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Paul.
y'all.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, Richard,
So now
are
we're,
you last,
Last, yes, sir.
not
Here we go.
least?
where are we going now?
I'm not sure. Stormwater.
Where are we going? Stormwater?
Yes, ma'am, stormwater.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a
Richard.
good one, yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yes, it is.
Thank you, my name is Richard Earp, I'm the city engineer with the city, and I'm going to talk about the Stormwater Division's tentative budget. We've gone to the budget line, it's line 120-3151. So the Stormwater Division is responsible for compliance with the federal program is the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Program. You've probably heard NPDES, that's the federal program. And then the state program, we say MS4 a lot. So the MS4, what that means is it's a municipal separate storm sewer system. So those are the two programs that this division is primarily responsible for. It includes compliance, that includes inspections of existing infrastructure and of construction projects, proactive and reactive inspections to detect and eliminate stormwater, things other than stormwater from discharging to the stormwater system. There's public education, there's outreach, and then there is a significant documentation of a wide variety of regulatory compliance issues that are requirements of that permit. And then also, of course, the program includes the cleaning, repair, and rehabilitation and construction of drainage improvements that prevent flooding and improve water quality throughout the city. So down in the bottom, the numbers that are summarizing, you'll see the personnel cost is a large increase of 209%. That includes about $250,000. That not only is the salary and the health care, retirement, workers' comp, all of those items for 2 additional positions. The positions are the MS4 coordinator and the MS4 inspector / GIS person. And those 2 positions right now will allow us to meet the minimum requirements of the MS4 permit. Operating expenses, there's a 51% increase in operating expenses over the current year, which amounts to about $220,000 increase total. That increase is primarily due to a request to fund the stormwater master plan in next year's budget. This stormwater master plan, in addition to the infrastructure assessment that we have ongoing right now, will allow for targeted drainage improvements in future years. I do want to note that the implementation of the stormwater rate increase that we talked about earlier this summer, that's been delayed until we finish this stormwater master plan and the infrastructure assessment, so we can very specifically quantify that increased rate that we'll hopefully talk about again next year. Capital outlay, the bottom number there is an 86% decrease, and that's due to the, me having expended all of the stormwater, or most of the stormwater reserves after the last couple of years, so I have to stay within budget. But primarily, the delay is due to the fact that we want to do the stormwater master plan and the infrastructure assessment to allow us to target the funds on the highest priority projects. And if you have any questions.
Any questions for Richard?
So you said that the master plan, are we working on that right now, upgrading that master plan?
Right now, we're doing an infrastructure assessment. So we've got a local survey firm that's looking at every inlet and every pipe in the entire city. They're in the middle of doing that now. They're actually about 3/4 of the way through. So we'll have the results of that report within the next month. And then next year, we have budgeted for the stormwater master plan that'll look at the topography and it'll look at problem areas and it'll allow us to focus resources on the largest stormwater problems in the city.
So the increase on any of the, on the fees won't occur until after we get the stormwater master plan?
Yes, ma'am. So it would be the intent to come back next spring or early summer to talk about that increase in stormwater fees again.
I thought that, didn't we go through a
Yeah.
presentation in early May? And I thought they had already done that study.
No, sir, we had to do the infrastructure assessment, but we had not done the stormwater master plan yet.
Gotcha. So, and that was just, and then that approval was also to increase or be open to increasing rates?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So those are two separate studies then. And then once we finish this master study, then we'll truly be able to set correct rates.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're getting a vehicle as well?
Yes, one vehicle to share amongst the two staff that we'd like to hire.
What kind of truck?
I don't know yet. I've actually been driving the electric car, and I like that a lot. But these people will be going to construction sites. A lot of times when you see construction sites, you have to practically almost get stuck to get into the construction site. So it probably makes more sense to get a four-wheel drive.
Something like
truck.
an F-150.
Something, yes, Charles will help us pick out.
Yeah.
Right.
But driving the electric car was part of an agreement that we had, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Having-
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to continue to have that car? in-
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So with the delay to finish the master plan, is that going to put anyone like our Ms. Esmeralda, who has had that constant concern there, and we've had to go back and rework at that and make sure they're clean up, is it going to put anybody in a position that they're going to have to wait through a real concern? I mean, do we have any of those hot spots?
No, that one hotspot in Sheeler Oaks, and we'll talk about that again tomorrow night. I'm asking for some coronavirus funds in the agenda for tomorrow night to cover some of that construction, but there are no other really pointed recurring flooding problems
Well,
in
we
the
got
city. that
Border
I'm aware
Lake,
of.
which we're hoping we get funding, some federal or state funding, and so that's one.
That's the thing, it's in the middle underneath 436, isn't it?
You know, we're talking about piping the water out of there, so, but hopefully we'll get federal and or state funding. to
And
help
that
us.
being
Right.
said, just my own curiosity is, when's Chick-fil-A going to move down that direction, do we know?
Well, they
Because
haven't, yeah.
Because they had mentioned something about the city and them waiting on things,
No,
and I'm not sure.
it's
so-
Chick-fil-A and the developer that owns the center of the,
Okay, so it's not anything on
no,
our part?
not the city. All right. Dio, you gonna wrap us up?
On the master plan, I just want to add something. What the master plan is going to allow us to do is to stop to be reactive and more proactive. What we have been doing in the city for the last 8 months that I've been here, we are reacting to a lot of problems that we
We
didn't
are.
spend a lot of funds to do. The master plan is going to identify those areas, and not only for flooding, but there may be other resources like washout, things like those, right? That we can then come back with more better appropriation of the budget, right? And so in future, you can have a detailed plan and what we're going to do specifically with those money to fund those. So that is what the master plan is going to do. Those identification needs that we have done, right? That came up, like for example, we identified the amount of stormwater system we have, how many French drains, how many of those, and where they're located. Those are why we perform the assessment, because this is a part of the MS4 permit that we need to identify them and to maintain them on a regular basis. So that is why the two terminology is slightly different, right? But a master plan will be identifying those hotspots and come up with some corrective measures. The assessment is just to identify where those structures are located and what we can do with those structures.
So what are we doing right now before we get this master plan? What are we doing right now, the city? How are we going about to maintain these areas?
We are looking, since I came on board and they hadn't boarded, we are going out realistically, right, and identify them, put it on the GIS map, right? We are trying to come up with SOP, how to prepare them. So we identify stuff. We already have a GIS database that do have some of these listed there, right? So we are having staff, as appropriate time we get complaint, we identify them and we place them back on the map. That study that Richard was talking about, which was done by, I think it's Southeastern, they're going to identify all of those structures now. So we're going to have an integrated database with all those identified. So we are going to know in future, right, what are the regular maintenance schedule that we have to do at those inlet and structures.
So right now, what we're doing
It's
is,
still
we
reactive.
wait, right, so
You're
we
still
wait for a problem, then we go and we address it.
Right. If the citizen call in on a problem, right, fine, then we are going to evaluate it and put it on a schedule to be done. If staff identify a problem out there during the drive-through or the visit, they're going to bring it to our attention. For example, what the commissioner raised about those trees and the garbage truck, right? Once we get a call in on those, because if they don't call, we would not know, except that the driver told us that those hanging limbs, right, that create an obstruction to the to the garbage truck pathway. So in that case, we are going to put it and program staff or get a quote to go ahead and elevate those trees to 17 feet above the ground level.
Okay.
Well, I love that we're moving toward proaction rather than reaction,
Yeah.
so
Well, we're
that's,
working toward that.
thank you.
And basically, I want to thank the mayor and the commissioners, right, for listening to this brilliant staff of us, and they're working very hard here in doing this.
The brilliant staff plus Glenn.
Well, unfortunately, with Glenn, I thought he would be here, but unfortunately, he had a mishap. Before he gets here, I didn't know that. Somebody bumped his vehicle there, right? So we hope that we were able to present it to you, you know, what our program is for the next year, and this is a bare bone analysis. Just want you to know, we have looked at everything here. If you see that we have not decided to purchase some equipment, you know, and we postpone it for future years, and it's because we also look at the supply chain. If we were having in the budget and we're taking 14 months or 12 months to receive a vehicle, then it would be money standing there, right? So it's better we appropriate what we can do, right, to get a proper expenditure, you know, input and output done, right? So in future years, I sure that you are going to see us coming back here and asking for more funds to do much more creative work. So the city can be much more
Right.
proactive now. I just want to put that. And with that, thank you so much for
Thank you to you and your team. You got a great team. So no, y'all have really done a lot here in the last year and going to continue to do a lot of good work for us. So thank you all.
And I wanted to mention too, and I know you had spoken with me, that I brought up about our curb appeal and making sure we're dealing with those. And where will that be presented to us? Is that coming up?
That's in your streets budget, so your streets will have those numbers.
Okay.
So those dollars are in
But
there.
I'm just-
It's additional money for all of that.
I'm grateful that we're doing that. I've had different citizens say they're grateful that we're addressing that, and I think it's just going to bring that whole facelift for Apopka up. We're heading the right direction there.
Awesome. All right. With that, close the public hearing.